Hey guys, Parfex here. Alright, today I'm going to bring you a video about the Sorcerer class. It's going to be a new series that I'm going to do, and I'm going to go over each class individually. And then I'm going to go over pretty much everything in general in the game. Skill lines, attributes, champion points, pretty much everything. And I'm going to break it down into smaller videos so that it's not 1 hour and a half video. Alright, let's get started. Like I said, we're going to start with the Sorcerer class. This is Parfax, my main, and he was the very first character I ever made in Elder Scrolls. Alright, there are 3 basic skill lines for the Sorcerer class. There's Dark Magic, Daedric Summoning, and Storm Calling. Alright, let's start with Dark Magic. Probably one of the best skills, if not the best skill that you get as a Sorcerer, is Crystal Shard. It is basically your nuke. Your single target damage dealing monster. It's going to help you level. It's going to knock down your enemies. It's just overall a great skill. So if you're starting off, make sure you get that ability. Okay, next we have Encase. Now this is a good skill because it roots your enemies. Alright, you throw it on the ground. And if there's an enemy in this little area right here, it will root them to the ground. Okay? And then the morphs of this skill are Shattering Prison and Restraining Prison. Restraining Prison adds a snare when effect ends, and Shattering Prison deals damage when effect ends. I prefer Shattering Prison 99 times out of 100, just because the snare it just slows them for 4 seconds. Doesn't really do a whole lot. And at least this morph you get damage. But overall this is a great skill, especially for leveling, to keep those enemies in one tight little area so you can kill them all. Alright, and then we'll go over the Crystal Shards morphs, because I forgot to go over those. You have Crystal Blast, which adds an area damage, so when you hit a target, it's also going to deal damage to the nearby enemies. And then you have, in my opinion, the only morph you really can take, and that's Crystal Fragments. Chance to make ability instant cast. So when you're casting your magic spells, your hands will glow blue, and you'll be able to cast it for free, dealing more damage and taking less magic. It's overall a great morph, and this is the reason why Sorcerer class is so strong. It mainly is because of this ability right here. It is so great. This morph is amazing. You can take this morph. I don't suggest it, but if you want to try it out, it looks kind of cool. Kind of like it arcs in the air and hits your target, deals a little bit of damage to the surrounding enemies. But I prefer, and almost all sorcerers prefer, Crystal Fragments over Crystal Blast. Alright, let's go to Rune Prison. This got a nice little rework when Imperial City dropped. This is now an instant cast, before it had a time. And it imprisons an enemy in a sphere of dark magic, and the enemy is disoriented for 16.8 seconds. And what that means is, if you hit somebody with it, they won't be able to do anything unless they either CC break it or you hit them. If you hit them with a damaging spell, it'll break it and they'll become unCC'd. But if you're leveling, it's a very good skill to, if you want to just kind of make sure that target doesn't move and you just want to do single target because you don't really have any AoE. You can hit Rune Prison on a target and you can Crystal Frags the other. And he's going to be standing there for 16.6 seconds, which is plenty of time to kill the other enemy. Okay, now the morphs. Rune Cage. Damage over time effects no longer break the disorient. So if you put a bunch of damage over time effects on him and then you Rune Cage him, he won't come out. He'll stand there and just take the damage over time. Interesting morph. Sorcerers don't run a whole lot of dots, which is this would be a great morph for like a DK, but unfortunately sorcerers don't have a whole lot of dots, so this is not as effective. And then there's Defensive Rune, which this one's fun, just a fun skill. Next enemy to damage you gets disoriented. So instead of hitting an enemy with it, you put it on yourself, and the next enemy that hits you, they get disoriented. That's good for PvP. Very good defensive skill. Alright, next skill. We're going to do Dark Exchange. Now, what Dark Exchange does is you cast it. Let's make sure we get it right here. Bargain with Darkness to restore 2,981 health and 1,996 magic. So basically, you cost stamina and you get magic and health back. So there's your heal. Okay? And now the morphs, you have Dark Deal. Converts magic into health and stamina. So instead of stamina into magic and health, you can do magic into health and stamina. So if you're a stamina sorcerer and you need something to help you get your stamina back, plus you need something to heal, this is a great ability, especially for leveling. I use this quite a bit. Alright, Dark Conversion, and it's the same thing, the stamina cost, but it reduces the amount of stamina it takes. Daedric Mines, one of the standout abilities as well for the sorcerer. What it does is it puts three mines on the ground, and if any steps in it, it deals damage to them and immobilizes them for 1.5 seconds. The unmorphed version, it takes 3 seconds to activate. Okay, Daedric Tomb, and it makes the mines, puts them in the line, and they don't take 3 seconds to arm, they're instant. Okay, and pretty much this is the morph that almost everybody takes. And it is Daedric Minefield. It summons 5 of them instead of 3, and it puts them in a big circle around you. This is, for the most part, the one that everybody takes. It's not as good for leveling, but it is really good in PvP. Alright, your passives. Unholy Knowledge, it reduces magic and stamina costs for all abilities by 3%. Absolutely amazing. It's 3% and then 5%. You get up to 5% reduced cost for magic and stamina abilities. Great, great passive. Blood Magic, hitting an enemy with a dark magic ability heals you for 4% of your max health. And then it goes up to 8% when you put both passives in it. Pretty self-explanatory. So if you hit it with Daedric Mines, Encase, or Crystal Shard, it will heal you. Alright, and then increase the duration of dark magic abilities by 20%. Pretty self-explanatory. And activating a dark magic ability grants minor prophecy to nearby allies, increases spell critical by 643 for 20 seconds. Basically, that's 3% crit for your allies every time you cast one of these abilities. Pretty good if you must ask me. Alright, and the ultimate. Alright, Negate. One of the most used group utility ultimates in the game. What it does is it creates a globe that suppresses your enemies. It dispels anything that's on the ground. So if there's AoE in the ground, you plop it down, it will take part, it'll eat it up, and it'll silence all the enemies in there. Now they can break it or get out of it, but we're going to go to the morphs. You have Suppression Field, allies take less damage while you're in it. And then you have Absorption Field, which grants movement speed and resource regeneration while you're in it. So both of these are situational. I like them in certain situations. Overall, I probably like the Suppression Field better just because if you take less damage, it's fantastic. But if you want a little bit extra movement speed and resource regeneration, Absorption Field is great. Alright, Daedric Summoning. One of the cooler skill lines, but not necessarily one of the more useful. Alright, we'll start with the 2 pets. Alright, you have the Unstable Familiar, and he's basically a little gremlin. Now he's a little Daedric guy here. He's a little Clan Fear. See? Always familiar at this, but he turns into Clan Fear. And you get to command him, and he attacks dealing shock damage, which is good for your sorcerer, which I'll show you that here in a little bit. And then he remains until he's killed. So there's no timer on this like a lot of things. It's just you put him down, he's going to stay there forever unless he dies. Or you unsummon him. So if you flip bars or hit his number again, he will unsummon. Alright, in the morphs you have Unstable Clan Fear, and this is his basically big brother. and he gets increased health, and he heals you when he dies. I like this morph when you're leveling because it's great because it tanks stuff for you, plus when it dies it heals you. Alright, and Volatile Familiar, if you want to live a little bit more on the edge, you get this one. He explodes, dealing damage and stunning nearby enemies when he dies. So, I prefer the Unstable Clan Fear, because basically you're going to be using him strictly for leveling up, and there are some PvP builds with it. For the most part, just leveling up, and he's an absolute tank. Alright, then we'll go to your other pet, and it's Summon Winged Twilight. You call upon her, and she's a Winged Twilight to fight by your side, remaining until killed or unsummoned, just like the Clan Fear. And she also does shock damage, which is good because you're a shock mage, and it'll proc one of your passives. Okay? And then you have Restoring Twilight. This gives you magic regeneration aura. So if you have her up, you're going to get more magic regen. And then this one heals you when you're at low health. For leveling, I definitely take the this one right here. The one that heals you when you get low health. But after that, I prefer this one because magic regeneration is going to save you just as much as healing you at low health. So I prefer this one late game, this one early game when you're leveling. Alright, we'll go Daedric Curse. Daedric Curse is basically when you cast it, it curses the enemy, and it goes off after a certain period of time, dealing magic damage. Alright, and then you have Daedric Prey, which when you cast it, when the curse is active, it deals an additional 55% damage on target, except the Storm Atronach, which receives 40% bonus damage. So all of your Twilight and your Familiar will do 40% or 55% more damage to a target when you have this on them. And then your Atronach will do 40% more damage. Okay, this one, the curse ends sooner. Instead of 6 seconds like the original in the Daedric Prey, this one goes off in 3.5 seconds. And that's really good for PvP. Leveling up, Daedric Prey, PvP, Malicious Curse. Bound Armor. Alright, Bound Armor is basically an armor. It's a toggle ability. And you need to have it just like your Twilight and your Familiar. This is one thing I gotta tell you. You have to have it on both bars. If you swap bars and it's not on there, it'll deactivate and come off. So you need it on both bars. And this gives you 975 physical resistance, and it increases your magic by 5%. And then this one gives you max stamina cost. It costs stamina and increases your heavy attack damage. And then this one also provides spell resistance. So if you're a magic user, you want this one, and if you're a stamina user, you want this one. Pretty self-explanatory. Alright. One of the most cried about abilities the Sorcerer has, and that is Conjured Ward. Well, it's more, we'll get that in a second. Basically a damage shield. Put it on yourself, you take less damage. Empowered Ward. Cost is reduced and also grants minor mending, which increases the effectiveness of your healing abilities by 8%. So if you want to be a healing sorcerer, you want this one. Now, here it is, Hardened Ward, Shield Strengthen, increased on self. So basically what happens is you cast it. If you have any pets out, it will cast it on them. But on yourself, it's increased. And it's a big damage shield. It's the best damage shield in the game. That's the reason why people hate it. Alright, we'll go over the ultimate, and it is another pet. It is an Atronach, and he basically deals shock damage. He comes down, and his morphs. Greater Storm Atronach just increases duration, damage, and health. So basically, he targets one enemy, and he lasts for 25 seconds. Alright, and Summon Charge Atronach has a powerful area of effect damage. So basically, when he comes down, he isn't going to attack just one target. He's going to attack a bunch of targets in the area. If they're in range, he's going to hit them. Alright, so if you need a single target, you want this one. AoE, you want this one. Passives. When one of your summoned creatures died or is killed or unsummoned, you restore magic. which is awesome. If you're running pets, you've got to have these. Alright, and my favorite passive for the Sorcerer is Power Stone, reducing the ultimate cost by 15% with both passes in it. It's huge. The sooner you can get that, the better. Daedric Protection, increase your health and stamina recovery by 10% when a Daedric summoning ability is slotted. That's pretty good, especially if you want to be a stamina user. You can use you do like a bow stamina user, having both your pets out with bound armor, just wrecking people. Alright, and your last passive is Expert Summoner. Increase strength on your summoned creatures. When Twilight deals more damage, Familiar does increase movement speed, and Atronach range is increased. So basically buffing all your pets. Alright, now to the last skill line, and this is more of your Lightning Mage. This is where you really see the Lightning Mage come about. Alright, Mage's Fury. This is your execution. Under 20%, this thing hits like a truck. And it deals damage. Here we go. Let's get back on here. If target's health falls below 20% within 4 seconds, an explosion deals an additional damage and damage to other enemies nearby. So basically, if you hit them on them and they're not 20%, if you drop them below 20% in the next 4 seconds, it will also hit them like an execute as well. So you put it on them, they're at 25%, hit them a couple times, they're at 20, it explodes, deals damage to nearby enemies, and it kills them. Alright. Mage's Wrath, the explosion deals more damage to the enemies that are nearby, pretty self-explanatory. And this Fury, the killing blows restore magic. So I personally like Mage's Wrath better. I don't use Endless Fury on normal mobs for the most part, but early on you might. And if you use this early on to kill regular mobs, I would definitely take Endless Fury to get your magic back. Lightning Form. This gives you your physical spell resistance. This is absolutely amazing if you want to be a little bit more tanky or you're having a problem surviving. You're going to put it on you, and you're going to light up like a Christmas tree. And you're going to deal lightning damage all around you. And it's going to give you spell resistance. It's going to give you physical resistance. It's absolutely amazing. Thundering Presence. Now scales off of weapon damage and stamina. So now this is just a stamina morph. So it does more damage due to your max stamina instead of due to your magic. And it also grants Major Expedition, which gives you increased movement speed by 40%. And it also deals more damage when you activate it. Then Boundless Storm, gain increased movement speed while active and increased duration. So it lasts longer, and you get the 40% movement speed. So you get 40% movement speed on both, but not this one. And this one's stamina, this one's magic. Pretty self-explanatory. Lightning Flood, your only AoE other than your Crystal Shard and your ultimate. Basically, you call down the little circle, and it deals lightning damage every half a second in the area that you have it down. Liquid Lightning, and it has increased duration, which is the better morph. And then you have increased radius. So basically, it's a little circle. You call it down on all of your enemies, and shocks them to death. I really, really like this Liquid Lightning combined with Encase. You encase them, drop Liquid Lightning on them, and then start hitting them with your Crystal Frags. Kills people really quickly. Alright. One of the used to be unique abilities, but not so much unique anymore. Surge. What Surge does is when you activate it, it will increase your weapon damage by 20% for 33 seconds. And when you crit, it'll give you health. It'll heal you for 40% of the damage done. So every time you crit, when you have this active, it'll heal you for 40%. Alright, and you have Power Surge, which adds spell damage instead of weapon damage. It adds them both, but if you're a magic user, you're going to want to take Power Surge. And then Critical Surge, it heals you for 50% of the damage done instead of 40%. So if you're a stamina user and you want to use this, you take this morph right here, so it increases your weapon damage by 20%, and heals you for 50% of damage done by all your crits. Alright, and last, but certainly not least in the skill line, is Bolt Escape. Basically, you hit it, you teleport straight in front of you, and people cry because you just teleported away from them. It is great in anything. It's good. One morph is good for stuns, which would be this one, and it is Streak, and it will damage and stun enemies in front of you. And if you truly need a getaway, Ball of Lightning is hard to beat. It absorbs projectiles for 4 seconds. Or 2 seconds, I'm sorry. Here. Also absorbs spell projectiles for 1.8 seconds. Okay, so it's a little under 2 seconds. So basically, if you want a straight getaway, Ball of Lightning is your skill. It's going to put a little ball behind you after you teleport, and if they shoot something at you, or they cast a crystal frag at you, or a projectile, it's going to absorb it. There is one big downside to Bolt Escape, which is a big change in this last patch. And if you cast it within 4 seconds, the cost increased by 50%. That stacks. So you can run out of magic really quickly spamming it, but you still want to use it because it's a great getaway ability. Alright, in the passives, increase magic recovery by 10% with both points into it. Increase damage of storm calling abilities by 5% with both in there. Disintegrate. Now here's this lightning thing that I've been talking about comes into effect. Gives all shock spells a 3% chance, 5% chance with both points into it. To instantly disintegrate low health targets, dealing a bunch of shock damage. So if they're low health and you're hitting it with a lightning ability, or anything lightning, it has a chance to basically just instant nuke them. And then Expert Mage, increasing weapon and spell power by 1% for each sorcerer ability slotted. And I thought that was 3. No, 2%. So what happens is, if you are running, let's say, a bow build, you want to do a bow sorcerer, and that's one of the big changes that they made, which is really, really cool. You could run that, leaves 2 bow abilities, and go Atronach on this bar. So you actually, on this bar, you have 2, 4, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 abilities slotted on this bar. You're going to get 8% weapon damage from this, and you're going to get, I think it's this passive. You're going to get 20% stamina recovery because you have one of these on your bar. One of the Daedric summoning abilities on your bar. Yeah. So, what Elder Scrolls have done, and has made this game a lot more balanced, is the strong points of this class are obviously if you want to be magic. If you want to be a magic class, this class is the one for you, because there is no better class suited for magic than the Sorcerer. But what Elder Scrolls have done, and I have praised them for, is they have tried to balance it to where you can be magic or stamina on any class and be very viable. You could do stamina as a sorcerer before, and I even have a video about it, but it wasn't nearly as good as the other ones. This pushes it a lot closer. You run something like this, and people are going to think twice about approaching you in PvP. Alright, before you ran stamina as a sorcerer, you were just kind of a noob. That's what people thought. Thought you were a noob because, hey, who runs stamina sorcerers? I did. But it's just, they've done a really great job of trying to balance in. With this last patch in Imperial City, they made... No, Stormcalling. Lightning Form, they made the stamina cast, which it hits really hard. And they made this passive with the couple tweaks that they did a couple patches ago with Bound to Armor. And Sorcerer is a very viable stamina class, and it may be a very good stamina class. So that's kind of the Sorcerer, its pros is it has the best shield in the game. It is probably the best magic class in the game. It's got decent utility. It's got some CC. It has good damaging abilities. And they have a decent amount of stuff to do for stamina, which it didn't have. Cons. You have, especially for stamina, you want to run pets, it really eats your bar up. You have to have these on both bars, so instead of making, 1, 2, 3, and 3 skill slots, that's 6. So you only have 4 other abilities you can even put in here if you want to run something like this. So it makes it easier to use because you toggle on 3 of your abilities and only have to cast 4. But it also doesn't allow you to put some abilities on your bar that you probably would need. Another con, if you don't have your shields up, this is the squishiest class in the game. You will get nuked not having your shields up, not having lightning form up. Stamina is a little different because you get armor from medium armor. Especially as a mage, if you don't have your shields up, you're just going to die. But that's the overall views of the Sorcerer class. If you have any questions about the Sorcerer, I've been playing it since launch. I, for the most part, know just about every nook and cranny and every build and everything there is to know about Sorcerers. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm just saying that I have talked to enough people and experienced enough where I basically know just about as much as there is to know about Sorcerers. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll be putting out more videos about the other classes. I'll do maybe a race video, which I know you guys love. We'll do the other skill lines here. We'll do guild, world, armor, weapons. We'll do all of those in these upcoming videos. If you haven't hit the like button on this video, go ahead and do it right now. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know why you haven't. Go ahead and do it. Thanks guys, and I will see you in Tamriel.